Jasmine Pineda allegedly getting fired by TLC isn't the kind of drama that quietly bubbles in the background. No, this one cracked wide open. We're talking lawsuit-level chaos, a possible breach of contract, and rumors flying that she's now facing a six-figure legal pounding from the very show that made her famous. $100,000. That's not a scare number. That's a warning shot, possibly the first of several. But what on earth could she have done to make the network go from casting her as reality TV gold to dragging her into the courtroom? This isn't the first time Jasmine's name burned through the blog headlines like wildfire, but it might be the most serious fallout yet. According to sources tied up tight in production leaks, Jasmine may have blown through her non-disclosure agreement like it was tissue paper. That means potential spoilers, secrets, off-limits behind-the-scenes details, shared, posted, or spoken where they allegedly never should have been. And in the world of reality programming where drama is currency but silence is law, that's enough to kill a contract dead. I'm Sarah, and this is Sister Wives Daily. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe because episodes like this, they don't come lightly. And this story, trust me, you're going to have serious opinions, so don't forget to drop them in the comments. Let's unpack it. From the beginning, Jasmine was electric. Her expression, her temper, her delivery, that mix of passion and unpredictability made her a standout in a cast filled with big personalities. She didn't just fill scenes, she owned them. TLC knew it. That's why she stuck around. Audiences couldn't stop watching, even if they didn't always know whether they loved her or hated her. But somewhere between the emotional breakdowns, the callouts, and the camera confessions, Jasmine stopped being the spark and started looking like the fire. Insiders claim the network had growing concerns for months, not just about what was on screen, but what was happening between episodes. The social media rants that seemed a little too in the know, comments that teetered too close to production timelines, leaks that felt timed, targeted, or a little too polished, including deep details fans never got from an aired segment. And then came screenshots, pieces of indirect evidence folks online claim connect Jasmine to shared information she was contractually barred from touching. Now, some of these might look innocent in isolation. A comment here, a like there, a vague emoji caption under a moody screenshot. But TV production contracts don't play in long-game suspicion. They're specific, brutal, and loaded. When you cross the line, there's almost no wiggle room. And TLC doesn't use fines as warnings. They're statements. A $100,000 lawsuit isn't designed to get back money. It's designed to scare every other cast member into silence. But here's where it gets messier. People inside the fan community are split. Some say, look, Jasmine pushed way too far for way too long. Between the explosive interactions with Gino, the never-ending emotional loops, and on-air fights with castmates, TLC probably got tired. Others argue she made the show watchable again. Like her or not, she pulled reactions. YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, every time she popped off, the views followed. So if TLC really is cutting her loose, isn't the network eating the hand that fed it? Of course, that's assuming the decision was even mutual. And here's a twist. What if Jasmine didn't want to be fired? What if she thought she had leverage? It wouldn't be the first time a reality star misjudged the power balance. When you're the center of the storyline for 2 seasons, building an online persona that's larger than your on-screen one, it's easy to start thinking you're unavoidable. Some fans think Jasmine might have played a game a little too confidently, maybe hinting at timeline spoilers or set gossip just to stay ahead in the algorithm. And when the DMs started leaking and online sleuths began connecting dates and comments and photo metadata, it was already too late. There are whispers she didn't act alone, that maybe someone in the crew, maybe even a fellow cast member, shared pieces with her they weren't supposed to. There's even talk that someone on the inside had it out for her. According to Reddit sleuths, a few castmates suddenly unfollowed Jasmine right before the lawsuit story broke, and not subtly. It was the kind of social media shift you almost expect with a scandal, not a coincidence. Could someone have thrown Jasmine under the bus? Were alliances breaking behind the scenes while the episodes were still rolling out? And if we zoom out even further, Jasmine's not just caught in a legal mess. She could be caught in an identity crisis. On screen, she's volatile, emotional, unforgettable. Off camera, maybe she tried to shape her own version of the story to control the narrative before producers did. But in trying to steer the machine, she forgot how fast that machine will run you over. TLC has a long history of tolerating chaos when it's controllable, especially if it gets ratings. But something about this one flipped the entire vibe. Think about it. They've kept way more problematic figures around in the past, so why was this the uncrossable line? Could it be that Jasmine threatened the production ecosystem by knowing too much and posting too openly? Maybe she started slipping too many truths between the drama, truths TLC didn't want public. And yet, nearly every time TLC clocked a serious risk from a cast member, they either quietly pulled them from new seasons, edited them out mid-airing, or cut their screen time altogether. With Jasmine, the network didn't even attempt to spin it softly. According to insiders, they went hard, legal, and public. They wanted people to notice. They needed the rest of the cast to know. This wasn't reality TV drama anymore. This was a studio cracking down. So then the next question, was Jasmine warned beforehand? That's the piece no one's fully clear on yet. Some people who have worked in similar shows say there's always a lead-up. A formal warning, then a quiet internal meeting, maybe a second chance. After that, you're either in or you're out. But if Jasmine did get warned, she clearly didn't pivot. Or worse, she might have seen it and kept going anyway. Why? And if you're starting to think all of this sounds way too extreme to be over a few posts, think again. Contracts on shows like this, ironclad. Some even tie future income potential to silence agreements. If Jasmine hinted at outcomes, plot twists, or partner secrets before airing, that's considered not just breach, but potential damage to property. TLC's property. The storyline, the edit, the cliffhangers they depend on to hook viewers. If that plan gets broken, so does the business model. What's wild is how fast the energy shifted. Fans went from Jasmine's doing too much to wait, it's too quiet now. The absence is loud. Her usual social feed rhythm, gone. Interviews or statements, radio silence. It feels more like someone shut the power off than someone choosing to stay quiet. And in reality TV, silence from an oversharer rarely means peace. Usually, it signals something is being handled legally. Still, there's an uncomfortable question humming beneath this all. Reality TV looks like chaos, but it's built on paperwork. Behind all the explosive moments, teary interviews, and wild storylines, almost everything is pre-decided. What can be said, when it's aired, what can be posted online, even who you're allowed to mention by name on Instagram. And Jasmine, whether she didn't care or didn't read carefully, might have just danced straight into legal fire. Most people don't realize how strict these contracts are. When cast members sign up for a show like 90 Day Fiance, they essentially hand over their storyline. TLC owns the footage, the narrative, and a big chunk of control over how the cast interacts with the public. Think NDAs thick with rules, behavior guidelines, media appearances you can't do without permission, merch restrictions, affiliate income limits, and strict timelines on what you can reveal publicly. Even your own relationship status can be classified. That's important, because if Jasmine posted, liked, or commented in a way that suggested anything about unaired episodes, backstage conversations, or her contract itself, that's enough to get flagged. Producers care about audience control. They don't want spoilers killing engagement. They don't want unapproved spin-offs. They don't want cast members using the fame for outside deals that weren't cleared. That's where merch and monetization control gets nasty. You tag a product in a video before the show's finale. Technical violation. You use your real relationship for a paid gig. That might break the contract. From what fans are claiming online, Jasmine's alleged rule-breaking wasn't one big moment. It was death by 1,000 posts. A suspicious comment about someone else's storyline. A too timely reaction to a scene that hadn't aired yet. An inside joke dropped in a TikTok out of nowhere. On their own, they look like accidents. But together, they tell a different story, one the network may be calling intentional. And if you're wondering whether other TLC stars got hit this hard, the answer depends on timing and power. Larissa Lima had huge blow-ups, legal issues, plastic surgery storylines, and immigration twists, all ratings gold, until she started openly promoting content that didn't align with the show's image. Then she was quietly let go. Paul and Karine, messy online accusations, court filings, Instagram live spirals. TLC tolerated it until it started messing with how the story could be packaged. They were dropped mid-arc. Gone, silence. That's the pattern. TLC may let the drama burn as long as they hold the lighter. Once someone from the cast tries to light their own fire, the contract clause come out. Jasmine may have thought she could outplay or outpost the network. But control is the only thing TLC doesn't play with. They don't risk the brand. They won't let contestants become producers in disguise. That theory, that Jasmine was leaking or teasing details to steer public support or reframe her character, is what fans think triggered the hammer to fall. Legal gray areas make it worse. Unlike actors, reality stars often think what they say is their own. But when it's part of a taped storyline they don't control, repeating it can be legally risky. Even talking about private moments that could appear in a deleted scene still counts as revealing production material. And social media's speed doesn't help. A single post deleted in 10 minutes can be screenshotted and trended in seconds. And Jasmine wasn't operating in a vacuum. Fans speculate she might have been chatting about potential deals outside of the show, offers from podcasts, smaller reality platforms, or even independent creators. If she started negotiating or dropping public breadcrumbs before her season aired its full arc, that's another likely violation. TLC expects total loyalty until the cycle is complete. Future brand deals. Sure, after the reunion, after the tell-all, and after you've played by the rules. Not during peak season, not in secret. The biggest fear for a network like this is hierarchy collapse. If one cast member gets away with bending the narrative, others follow. If Jasmine became the one who teased storylines, side-eyed producers, hinted at edits, or mocked NDA language publicly, she would have looked like a rebel, not just to fans, but to everyone else under contract. That energy spreads, and when the audience starts trusting cast accounts more than the final cut on TV, balance breaks. The producers look dishonest. The storyline has holes. The mystery shrinks. That's a massive liability. And fans are smart now. They dissect Instagram activity the same way lawyers dissect contracts. They know when something is staged. They notice when screen time drops. They can spot reshoots, continuity errors, off-schedule filming, even emotion redos based on lighting. And when Jasmine posted things around sensitive dates, things that shouldn't match up with the show's timeline, they picked it apart immediately. That kind of scrutiny forces TLC's hand. Either act quickly or risk the entire storyline getting exposed. Still, there's debate. Some fans argue Jasmine might have stumbled into this without malicious intent, that she got too comfortable. She wasn't being sneaky, she was being impulsive. She felt like she belonged to the audience more than the show. Her online life didn't match the expected please stay quiet posture producers want. And maybe she assumed the network would let it slide again. They didn't. Others think this is bigger. That she saw parts of her edit and panicked. That spoilers weren't about attention, they were about protection. Maybe she thought a hint here, a post there, could buy her more time, sympathy, or even negotiating leverage when the season wrapped. It wouldn't be the first time a reality cast member tried to beat editing with the internet. Reading previews, getting in front of a scandal, controlling damage before it drops. That only works if the show doesn't fight back. But fighting back seems to be exactly what's happening. A six-figure lawsuit sends one message. Control has returned to the network. Jasmine's storyline now exits the realm of drama and enters legally enforced silence. The fans watching her feeds, waiting. The cast still under contract, watching their own steps even closer. Producers, probably locking down non-disclosures tighter than ever. And whether you believe Jasmine broke the rules intentionally or got caught in the system, there's one truth no one can ignore. On-screen, Jasmine was passionate, unpredictable, and explosive. Off-screen, she pushed that to another level. The version of Jasmine fans saw during 90-Day Fiance's tapings already walked a fine line between volatile and vulnerable. But something shifted once filming paused and social media stepped in. That's where the real separation appeared. Between the Jasmine who cried about love on TV and the Jasmine who posted bold Instagram stories hinting at betrayal, censorship, and drama no one had seen yet. Her clips during the season were already viral fodder, monologues full of tears, confrontations that left Gino speechless, sudden exits mid-confessional. But online, she doubled down. She hinted that edits didn't tell the whole truth, that the emotional load she carried couldn't be condensed into ratings-approved episodes. Fans noticed the difference, too. Some thought she was peeling back layers, giving more of herself. Others thought it was calculated, a play for sympathy or chaos depending on the day. The producers tried to contain what made her polarizing. You could almost see them reshaping her edit across episodes. One week she was framed as overemotional but loyal, the next as disruptive and confrontational. Certain outbursts were aired in full, while others were clipped mid-tension. But Jasmine didn't help the edit stay consistent. She'd jump online after episodes launched, post cryptic messages about the truth being bigger, and slap laughing emojis under posts mocking other cast members' scenes. That energy blurred the line between cast member and live commentator, and the network wasn't equipped to keep up. When you look specifically at her biggest clashes, most of them have two tracks: the version the cameras caught, and the version Jasmine promoted on social after the episode aired. One clear moment was her hotel blow-up with Gino, when emotions ran high and the confrontation dominated the episode. Fans think producers let the cameras roll because the drama would spike ratings, even as Jasmine hit emotional levels that some found distressing. Days later, Jasmine posted about betrayal and real pain. Was she being honest? Creating mystique? Feeding the reaction machine? You can pick out other iconic moments, too. The time she stormed off mid-filming, the way she refused to answer questions at the tell-all unless they changed the wording. One episode showed her giving production attitude mid-interview, hinting they were setting her up with certain questions. Scene by scene, she stopped playing along with the structure. Whether it was frustration, gameplay, or instinct, it shifted her role from reality TV star to wild card. Producers reportedly noticed the tonality change. Unscripted shows still need control, and Jasmine was resisting it. She wasn't just reacting, she was pushing. Choosing how much vulnerability to show and when. Turning some scenes into emotional currency with viewers while treating others like personal attacks. That shift made her unpredictable, and both fans and crew noticed. The fans, deeply split. There were entire Reddit threads built around decoding whether Jasmine was spiraling for real or weaponizing chaos. Some called it emotional warfare, a new kind of cast strategy that plays both production and the audience at once. Others said she looked genuinely lost, crying one week and clapping back the next, not thinking long-term, just reacting from survival mode. Publicly, the tide started turning. Initially, people defended her right to reclaim her own narrative. They praised her honesty, even when it came through anger. But that support started wavering as she became harder to follow. One day vulnerable, the next manipulative. Her reactions became harder to track emotionally. Comments went from "protect Jasmine" to "why is she still on this show?" Fans who once saw her as a necessary force began calling her mentally exhausting. They weren't rooting for her anymore. They were voting for her exit. Instagram and Twitter threads mirrored the shift. She hijacks every storyline and makes it about her. She knows what she's doing and it's not cute anymore. This isn't entertaining, it's disruptive. And when bigger pages started posting polls asking whether TLC should cut her, those numbers were brutal. Months earlier, she was the star. Now she was being viewed as the liability. Not just by fans, but allegedly by production too. That's what makes all this more complicated. People assume networks only care about numbers. Jasmine did bring numbers, but she also broke rhythm. She ruined suspense. She distracted from narratives TLC planned with other couples. And if her social media posts encouraged a split between what audiences believed and what the show aired, TLC wasn't just losing control of Jasmine. They were losing control of the entire season. Add to that the whisper that Jasmine's behind-the-scenes behavior didn't just stay online. Some reports say she openly questioned why other cast members were given lighter edits, that she clashed with producers who tried to calm scenes, that certain interview segments had to be heavily edited to cut out things she referenced that weren't supposed to be public. Supposedly, at least 2 other cast members refused to film certain segments if Jasmine was involved. One source claimed she started talking over others during off-camera prep, making filming feel chaotic. None of this has been publicly confirmed, though fan threads show consistent behavior patterns across multiple appearances. Still, there's space for empathy, especially when you compare her public unraveling to past cast spirals. Danielle, for example, was mocked mercilessly for being emotionally intense, until viewers later realized how much pain she was managing off-camera. Same with Paul, who became meme-worthy but was clearly navigating emotional overload. Jasmine may have been spinning out, not scheming, and TLC's choice to air her full stretch, raw emotions and all might have hurt more than helped. Viewers saw too much, with too little explanation. But here's the wild part. As this entire mess started unspooling in public, and Jasmine's role on the show looked to be collapsing, an unexpected rumor began swirling online and then quietly spread through industry pages. Just when it looked like Jasmine's journey with TLC might be over, something strange started happening. A few reality TV gossip accounts, typically well-connected, rarely wrong, hinted that Jasmine hadn't just been dropped. She was being approached, not by TLC but by other production houses, quietly, carefully, all while the network chaos was still hot. That threw the entire narrative into confusion. Fired? Maybe. But forgotten? Absolutely not. If true, it's one of the boldest plays in recent reality TV history. Because normally when a cast member faces a $100,000 lawsuit, rival shows hit pause. Nobody wants to inherit drama that's already burning someone else's legal bridge. But Jasmine, according to whispers behind closed doors, and a few suspicious LinkedIn updates from casting assistants who have worked with 90-day alumni, she wasn't being iced out. She was being researched. One platform in particular is rumored to have had quiet talks about fitting her into an ensemble-style reality show built around larger-than-life personalities, not relationships. Totally different tone, and way more room for someone like Jasmine to be messy, raw, and dramatic with zero expectations of resolution. And you see why that might be appealing to producers. They don't need her to be stable. They need her to be magnetic. She already proved she is. Here's where it gets smart. Jasmine might be considered too volatile for a structured relationship show like 90-Day Fiance, where the tension builds inside a fixed arc. But place her in a format like House of Villains, The Surreal Life, or even a chaotic dating reboot. Suddenly her heightened emotions aren't barriers, they're features. Drama becomes the product instead of a disruption. She doesn't have to curve the mess toward marriage. She can be the mess. That's what makes this part so fascinating. TLC spent years using Jasmine's volatility to spike interest and engagement. But once she started using that energy off-platform, they seemed to backtrack. Her emotional spirals, while great for mid-season heat, became liabilities long-term, especially once she started throwing off the controlled storyline rhythm. And yet, that very lack of filter is exactly what other networks might pay for. People say they hate her behavior, but they can't look away. And no one builds rewatchable chaos better than a villain with fan-built depth. This isn't unusual either. TLC has a pattern for post-break drama. Sometimes they cut someone fast and permanently, Paul and Karine, Larissa, Jeffrey. Sometimes they freeze them out quietly, letting contract time run its course without a formal firing. And sometimes, if the press shrinks fast and they need a ratings jolt, they recycle. People have walked from scandals straight into spin-offs. So if Jasmine is actually out, not paused, she must have crossed a line TLC doesn't expect to erase. Which gives her two options, fade or pivot. Pivoting makes sense if she has leverage. Despite the controversy, Jasmine has three major things going for her: a loyal hate-watch audience, international relatability, and algorithmic momentum. Even with backlash, clips of her blow-ups get recycled. Memes from her fights go viral. Translators scrub her scenes for subtext. She has global screenshots. So while TLC sees a lawsuit, another network might see syndication potential. That's where things get ethically messy. People often talk about casting authenticity, but real pain sells just as effectively as scripted chaos. Reality TV shows don't need Jasmine to thrive, they need her to break. Her tension was the tension. And once someone gets coded as a villain, the rules change. There's less pressure to be consistent. Expectations evaporate. And that inconsistency becomes value. People wait for the next break, next wave, next scream. It's attention economics, and Jasmine, whether she knows it or not, is part of a system that monetizes close-range collapse. It would be easy to say Jasmine created the role herself, but that ignores the way contracts incentivize intensity. TLC's model only works if the audience stays reactive. And Jasmine, either strategically or emotionally, made herself impossible to ignore. But when you're cast as the unpredictable one, networks start writing you into corners. Legally controlled chaos becomes a cycle. Producers stir your emotions to build arcs, then frame those reactions to fit a story. And once you're deep enough into that structure, it's hard to find your way out without breaking something. People forget how little power cast members have once they're branded. You're expected to react on cue, but punished if you react in ways they can't script. Burying your storyline, You're boring. Breaking the quiet rules, you're unstable. But Jasmine flipped that system by leaking the edits before the producers could finish packaging her. And in doing that, she might have launched her own aftershow, just not the one TLC wanted. The irony here is loud. For 2 seasons, Jasmine was the chaos engine they relied on to carry storylines when other couples stalled. Her spin-offs got views. Her tell-all segments, headliners. She was the built-in eruption for every flat narrative they couldn't save with editing. And yet, when she took that same fire online, the system rejected it. Now she's reportedly listening to new voices. The format changes. The rules shift. A looser show would give her more narrative freedom and way less legal strain. She wouldn't have to pretend the relationship works. She wouldn't have to filter every word through TLC's delay-heavy approval process. She could be every bit the wild card, but on her own terms. It's the dream arc of a reality star burned by structure. Turn the rejection into a reboot. But that also raises new questions. Was Jasmine actively reaching out to rival platforms before the lawsuit hit? Or did someone, an agent, a producer, a manager behind the scenes, see an opportunity and start placing her name on quiet shortlists? If she was already talking deals while still under TLC contract, that could explode this situation far beyond an NDA breach. That's contract interference territory, which might explain the intensity of TLC's legal reaction. Not protecting a secret, protecting market exclusivity. And if that theory holds, it means Jasmine didn't just slip. She jumped, which reframes everything about this so-called meltdown from earlier. Somewhere behind the headlines, the court threats, and the viral memes, there's a woman who might be sitting in silence, staring at a phone that used to be her entire brand. No likes blooming, no comments rolling in, no new offers flooding her. If Jasmine Pineda really has been forced off the stage, cut loose by the network that once thrived on her extremes, then the whiplash must be intense. 1 week everyone's watching your words like gospel. The next, they're dissecting your silence like a crime scene. At surface level, Jasmine always looked like she had answers. When she erupted on camera, when she posted layered captions or hinted behind-the-scenes tea, everything felt deliberate. But what if the real story underneath isn't about her control, but her loss of it? What if the worst part of being dropped wasn't the lawsuit, but the fact that she didn't get to write her own exit? Reality stars burn in patterns. At first, they're fresh and shocking. Then they become reliable. Then risky. Then recyclable. TLC has a long list of cast members who reached a breaking threshold. Once they got too smart for the setup, too loud in the wrong ways, or too connected to the truth behind the scenes, things changed. Some faded. Others were removed. Good ratings can prolong the fuse. But eventually, the same fire that lights the show becomes the one that burns through contracts. Jasmine may be living in that moment now. Not the TV villain, not the Instagram disruptor, just the real woman, maybe sitting somewhere doubting every decision that used to be instinct. How much of her behavior was performance? How much was emotion? Did she lean too hard into the chaos to stay relevant? Or was she cornered into playing a role until it consumed her? There's a version of this where Jasmine truly didn't see her downfall coming. Maybe she believed she was too valuable. That TLC needed her more than she needed them. Maybe she leaned into the tears and blow-ups because those scenes got the most attention. Maybe she thought the producers were on her side, guiding her moments, not setting her up. And maybe, when she realized how far the edit could twist her, it was already too late to regain balance. She's not the first this happened to. Look at Danielle. At the start, people mocked her reactions. Now, years later, they treat her with empathy. Fans saw the pressure she was under, how much reality TV demanded her vulnerability without giving her the tools to manage it. Or Larissa, widely criticized, hugely watched, ultimately discarded once her off-brand behavior threatened the network's polished image. These women weren't just controversial, they were used up, designed to provoke strong reactions, and then punished when those reactions got too raw. What makes Jasmine different is how fast the mood shifted. There wasn't a slow descent. It felt like one day she was essential, and the next she was a risk. Her name still trends. Her scenes still get clipped and quoted. But now her silence smells like construction. Like the network is rewiring what's next, just without her involved. And that silence is loud. For someone who once updated fans daily, shared every emotion like a live stream, it now feels like a blackout. And with that comes something sharper, disbelief. Some fans still hold the line for her. They argue she's been misunderstood, that her emotional peaks, her jealousy, her bursts of suspicion were real human responses wrapped in a high-stakes relationship setup. They point out how little she got in return, how often her feelings were brushed off or mocked by other castmates and fans. They say her intensity was messy, sure, but it was honest, and that the network edited her downward, framing moments for explosions rather than letting nuance breathe. Those fans see this lawsuit not as accountability, but retaliation. A hammer dropped too late, meant to make an example out of someone already spinning out. They say TLC profited off her collapses, made trailers from her breakdowns, and then gaslit her by demanding quiet. Social media receipts show support too, screen-recorded lives where Jasmine opened up about anxiety, side comments about unfair pressure, clips of producers seeming to press buttons during confessionals. There was always more going on behind those tears than audiences got to fully see. That's the contradiction that keeps echoing. TLC knew what they were filming. They didn't just let Jasmine shine, they poked the fire. A person doesn't unravel in isolation. They were in the room when she cracked. They shaped the storyline that guided her emotions toward edges. And once it worked, once her highs and lows pulled millions of views, they aired it. Full volume. So when the hammer finally came down, it's fair to ask, was the punishment about her behavior, or about her breaking out of the structure meant to profit from it? There's also a pattern to how the network manages icons that grow too unpredictable. Let the drama play out first. Collect the ratings, flip the narrative gently, then fade them out or frame the fallout as non-negotiable. But with Jasmine, there wasn't much flipping. There was no strategic storyline softening, no framing her as someone going through a rough time. It felt like she was dropped, hard, suddenly, and mid-hype. As if someone pulled the rug not just from under her, but from under the very audience still watching replay clips of her episodes. It's telling when a star goes silent before a network does. Jasmine's Instagram blackout isn't just about legal risk. It might be about emotional retreat. Maybe she thought her personality was enough to survive the shift in favor. Maybe she thought she could post her way back into audience trust. Instead, she may have realized, too late, that the machine she became the face of never wanted her as a player, just a pawn. And here's where things take a strange turn. Because as much as she may have violated contract terms, said too much or posted too soon, there's an alternate version of events that fans are picking apart more aggressively every day. One that doesn't start with Jasmine leaking information. It starts with someone else breaking the rules first. There's a rumor picking up steam that flips the entire situation on its head. What if Jasmine didn't start the fire? What if she was reacting to something that never got aired? Something silent but powerful, buried deep inside the contracts the cast members sign, but can't truly understand. Because here's the truth behind reality TV. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's fair. TLC, like most major reality networks, covers itself with layers of contract protections. It can edit, rearrange, cut scenes, extend takes, repeat emotions out of context, or even cast doubt through silence. They own the final product. So while Jasmine might be accused of breaking her NDA, the bigger question swirling is whether the network manipulated the show's storytelling in ways that created not just drama, but emotional breakdowns they later punished her for. Legally, TLC's in the clear. Morally, that's where things get messy. These contracts are designed to protect the network, not the people. And Jasmine, with her sensitivity, her paranoia, her fiery temper, became the perfect lightning rod. Audiences watched her swing from laughter to tears in a single line. But when the cameras cut, she was still living inside that swing, maybe longer than anyone realized. There have been other examples. Season after season, contestants walk away from TLC projects claiming they were misled, misedited, or emotionally cornered. Sometimes it's cast members who claim they were told to amp it up. Others say they were discouraged from leaving toxic situations because it wasn't resolved enough for TV. One former participant from a now-canceled spin-off said her breakdown was filmed over 2 days, then cut into a 5-minute arc that made her seem irrational and dangerous, all while leaving out what actually triggered it. Another cast member from a different franchise detailed how producers allegedly built in weight traps. On-camera interviews where they'd isolate someone emotionally, ask loaded questions, then delay cuts until they cried or snapped. Those moments were the ones that got airplay. Not the calm, not the clarity, just the chaos. The industry term is frankenedits, where a sentence from day 1 gets stitched into a reaction from day 6 and paired with a clip from day 3. You don't know it's happening unless you're the one who said it. And Jasmine, whose scenes often felt bigger than life, may have found herself increasingly lost between what she lived and what fans saw. That distortion. It doesn't just confuse you, it destabilizes you. Think through it. You live the moment, then watch it air months later, completely shifted. You know what really caused the argument, the silence, the reaction. But the final cut tells a cleaner story, packaged to be memeable and sellable. If Jasmine saw herself being rewritten in real time, it's no wonder she started pushing back, in captions, in comment sections, through cryptic posts. Maybe she thought hinting at the real story was her only shot at staying grounded. That's where the ethical breach might have started. If TLC manipulated her enough to make her look unstable, only to drop her when her behavior, shaped by production, got out of control, then they didn't just fire her. They built her downfall. Fans have pointed this out before. During her last full season, Jasmine had scenes that felt off. Conversations cut short, tight reaction shots but no context, explosive responses with no clear trigger. Add in her social posts during those weeks, posts about feeling betrayed, edited unfairly, or misunderstood. And the timeline starts sinking in weird ways. It's not proof, but it's enough for fans to question whether Jasmine's implosion was engineered, not spontaneous. These contracts don't offer protection from emotional tolls. There's no therapist built into the agreement, no off-camera mental health support. The job is to be real, dramatic, emotional, and consistent on someone else's schedule. And when it spirals too far, the network issues statements like, "We wish them well," wipes hands clean, and keeps rolling. Meanwhile, the person left behind is having to rebuild under the weight of a public character they didn't even recognize anymore. What happened to Jasmine might follow this same trajectory. It's possible she tried to salvage herself mid-edit. Maybe she saw the show leaning harder into her volatility and started dropping hints online, trying to give fans breadcrumbs of what they didn't see. Maybe her subtle leaks weren't about spite, they were about survival. The only way to signal, "Hey, there's more here," without breaking the contract wide open. If that's true, then this lawsuit isn't just about an NDA breach. It's about the network making an example out of someone too emotionally reactive to play the long game. Cast members are meant to complete the arc, then fade or flip into another franchise. But Jasmine didn't wait for that. She broke rhythm, she talked, she pushed back. She became unpredictable in a way TLC didn't control, and they hate that. Online, the energy's already shifting. People still drag Jasmine. But now, more fans are asking questions about who builds the storyline and who pays when it collapses. Was she truly the disruptor? Or was she dropped to keep someone else's secrets safe? We don't have all the facts. But we do know that in reality TV, the one who breaks is rarely the only one who caused the break. Sometimes the difference between a villain and a victim is editing. And looking at the timeline, the pressure cooker of casting, filming, isolating, editing, and then pointing the public lens right back at her while it aired. There's a chance Jasmine didn't have any idea how far the damage had spread, until it was too late. So maybe this was never about a few social media posts or careless contract violations. Maybe those were the symptoms. The real breach? It happened long before, when the line between entertainment and exploitation got erased, when emotion became content, when silence stopped feeling safe. And if that's the case, if someone knew Jasmine was fragmenting before she ever said a word, then she isn't the one who broke the rules. She's the one who got broken by the game. Jasmine Pineda started her 90-day Fiance journey as one of the most memorable women to ever hit the franchise. From the moment she appeared in that first chaotic video chat with Gene waving red flags like confetti, but somehow still making fans slow blink in admiration, everything about her screamed ratings rocket. There was passion, unpredictability, fire. She was the kind of casting that makes producers lean forward, a walking emotional plot twist. But now, not long after that explosive rise, her name's being whispered under lawsuit headlines and silence cloaked in legal strategy. How did that switch happen so hard, so fast? In the beginning, Jasmine sparked because she was raw. Not the polished influencer type, but messy, reactive, dramatic, in ways that felt alarmingly familiar. Her jealous moments made fans laugh, her breakdowns felt honest, and her connection with Gino was so confusing it kept eyeballs locked in just trying to figure out why or how they were still together. That unpredictability made her gripping. She gave 100% to every emotion, and whether you agreed with her or not, she never left you bored. At first, fans didn't mind. They even rooted for her. They said Gino was robotic, too passive, that Jasmine was carrying the storyline on her shoulders. Her insecure outbursts. Protect Jasmine, she needs help, not hate. Her jealousy. He's not making her feel seen. No wonder she spirals. There was actual compassion underneath the drama-stoked edits. Viewers picked up on a woman who'd been burned in love before and was navigating foreign relationships, language gaps, and massive lifestyle differences, all on camera. That's a lot for anyone, and Jasmine made it compelling. But every hit character has a life cycle. And for Jasmine, the tipping point came fast. You could track the turning tide through social media sentiment alone. Over time, admiration morphed into concern. Concern turned into side-eye. Side-eye hardened into criticism. Suddenly, comments that used to defend her started asking questions like, why is she always yelling? Is this about Gino or control? Sorry, this behavior isn't okay anymore. As her reactions got more intense, and her need to manage every moment ballooned, audiences who once cheered started recoiling. And the red flags, they weren't subtle in hindsight. Early episodes already showed Jasmine ditching the filters. Her micromanaging of Gino's outfits, comments about his texts, the GPS-style tracking of his phone, all camouflaged as passionate love, but laced with control. At first, producers aired those moments like quirky bumps. Later, they became primary plotlines. A few scenes were even left hanging, with ominous music and abrupt cuts, leaving fans stewing with questions. It was all staged perfectly for tension, but not resolution. From there, everything started feeding itself. Jasmine reacted stronger. Fans pulled away harder. TLC leaned into the cycle. And with every confessional that painted her as overly emotional, another social media post dropped where she clapped back or tried to explain, only making things murkier. It had all the markers of a slow-motion implosion, a full-circle burnout disguised as entertainment. It's hard not to ask whether anything could have stopped it. Maybe if TLC gave her more support behind the scenes. Maybe if editors aired fuller clips that showed the quiet conversations instead of just the explosions. Maybe if Jasmine took a step back from constant online engagement once she started spiraling. But in truth, the recipe was already scripted. This was a formula the network had played before. Introduce a volatile star, ride the high, then drop them when the emotional weight starts cracking the brand. And Jasmine followed that script word for word, whether she knew it or not. The vulnerable wild card who spilled her hurt for views. The table shaker who became the villain. The misunderstood cast member who started hinting at truths the show never let air. Her original shine became shadow, not because she changed, but because the spotlight stopped flattering her. Reality TV is excellent at making intensity look like imbalance, and Jasmine gave them every angle they needed. Still, the deeper feeling beneath all of it is sadness. Because this isn't someone who tried to fake scenes for attention. She was the scene. And at the core of every tear-fist, rant, or dramatic spiral was a woman who clearly didn't feel safe, emotionally, relationally, publicly. And instead of pulling back, TLC did what they always do. They rolled the cameras closer. For some viewers, that realization came too late. They'd already flipped on her. Others are only now starting to rewatch old scenes, hearing the cracks in her voice not as manipulation, but exhaustion. And learning that maybe the red flags editors amplified were only red because the pressure made them flare up. It's possible Jasmine never stood a chance of being seen the way she hoped. She's a reality TV example of what happens when you pour everything out and then get punished for oversharing. And that punishment wasn't subtle. Lawsuit rumors, blackouts on social, refusals to renew, cast members avoiding her name in interviews. It's not just that Jasmine burned out. It's that the machine that lifted her up now acts like she was never essential, just a heat source they used until they got nervous. But something else cracked the narrative open again. TLC, famously tight-lipped and careful in its online presence, dropped a post that had fans frozen. It looked basic at first. Just a cast throwback reel clipped from a past season. Nothing unusual. But then someone noticed a tiny sliver of Jasmine emoji tucked into one of the tags. A single, lonely flower. And followers clocked it immediately. Not a coincidence, they said. A signal, a leak, a moment of intentional noise. Within hours, the post had over 200 comments speculating whether it meant Jasmine was returning, whether the network was monitoring her mentions, or whether, somehow, her arc wasn't finished but paused. That single emoji reignited the entire conversation, and it left people wondering. When the news first hit that Jasmine might have been fired, the fandom exploded like gasoline on a spark. Some cheered, saying TLC finally cut the cord on someone who brought too much heat and not enough resolution. But others, they refused to let it go without a fight. The hashtags started slow, then surged. Team Jasmine threads lit up Reddit. TikTok sleuths began posting side-by-side timelines of her episodes, analyzing everything from body language to eye contact, trying to figure out exactly where things started to fall apart behind the scenes. Instagram, YouTube, even Twitter, everyone had a theory, most had screenshots, and no one agreed. Some claimed the lawsuit was PR smoke. That TLC was baiting attention without planning to follow through, because drama equals views. Others argued her silence was the real signal, proof she was gagged by legal pressure and getting ready for a counterswing. Fans started pulling receipts from as far back as 3 years ago, highlighting her first social media post where the cracks began to show. Others dissected her friendship circle, looking for castmates who might have stayed loyal behind the scenes. It became less about the truth and more about decoding the silence. And that's the strange part. The less Jasmine said, the louder the fandom got. Everyone wanted to know where she was, why she wasn't defending herself, what TLC wasn't telling them, and if canceling her was just another case of the network using someone up and walking away. The paranoia wasn't baseless. Fans remember how quickly Larissa was cut after contract conflict, how Paul and Karine's unraveling became public scandal before production reacted. Jasmine's situation followed that same shadowy pattern, with TLC saying nothing while fans filled in the gaps. More than ever, fandom isn't quiet. In today's ecosystem, they don't just influence show ratings, they directly impact contract decisions. When audiences backlash, networks adjust across platforms. Commentary videos take off, Reddit threads dominate search results, TikTok creators stitch moments while tagging brands. For TLC, Jasmine's fandom wasn't just an emotional support machine, it was a visibility engine. Every rant, every sob, every meme recap boosted reach. And the irony, that same audience might have pressured the network to act because their engagement became harder to manage. The more her name trended, the more risk the network faced, especially if they couldn't control the narrative. So in a way, Jasmine's fans might have helped force TLC's hand without realizing it. By keeping her relevant at all costs, defending her behavior, breaking down her motivations, psychoanalyzing her over and over, they spotlighted the tension between her growing brand and the show's limits. That attention was a monster TLC could no longer contain within polished episodes. And if audience energy leaks outside of the show's borders, the power shifts. TLC has to remind everyone who's boss. But there's an uglier underside too, parasocial burnout. At first, fans feel connected. Jasmine cried, they cried. She raged, they posted in her defense. She hinted in captions, they decoded every letter as if she was speaking directly to them. That illusion of closeness is what keeps a fanbase loyal. But once that bond breaks or goes unanswered, it curdles. Quickly. Sympathy turns into resentment. People you thought were defending her 6 months ago were now saying she manipulated everything. It didn't matter that viewers didn't know her personally. Her emotional currency collapsed, and in this game, that's bankruptcy. Some people blame her for playing too hard into the drama. Others blame TLC for pushing her over the edge. But the emotional wear-down was already visible. For every moment Jasmine gave the show, she lost a little more control over herself in the public's hands. And real people don't bounce back easily from that. This isn't a character arc. It's a person trying to manage an audience large enough to fill an arena, all while being told exactly how to behave. And whether you loved Jasmine or loathed her, what she went through fed more than just ratings. It fed endless online content. YouTubers turned her breakdowns into full-time income. Podcasts debated her mental state. Comment sections ran wild, diagnosing her with everything from anxiety to narcissism. It stopped being about Jasmine the woman and became entirely about Jasmine the content. And the cost? She's the one stuck with the silence after the camera's cut. One day you're the emotional center of an entire season. Next, the story keeps going without you, and no one comes to explain. That kind of abandonment by audience and employer isn't just professional loss, it feels personal. Especially when your whole persona is emotional honesty. If you're cast for intensity and punished for it, the insecurity that follows runs deep. And for someone like Jasmine, who built intimacy with fans one teardrop at a time, watching them turn on you, or worse, forget you, might sting deeper than the lawsuit ever could. Still, fans aren't done. There are people still searching, still writing threads, still sharing posts tagged number Justice for Jasmine. Because even now, her absence feels too calculated. They're not buying the clean-cut narrative. Something about it feels off. Because in all the noise, one question keeps coming back louder than the rest. Jasmine disappearing online wasn't just a missing post or a skipped story. It was a full-scale blackout. For someone so consistent, so reactive, and so present, vanishing from her own platforms as the legal smoke started rising sparked a digital panic. And in the world of influencers, silence doesn't mean peace. It means strategy or restriction. And when you're on a reality show contract, it can mean both. Before everything imploded, Jasmine's feed was a steady stream of high-attention updates, emotional photo dumps, long captions packed with subtext, rapid-fire stories answering vague fan questions, or fueling speculation she knew would go viral in 5 seconds or less. That rhythm made her feel real to people, even if the reactions were split between love, frustration, and full-on obsession. Her social presence wasn't extra, it was the brand. She didn't just extend the show onto her phone, she made it its own spin-off. And then suddenly, nothing. No tagged comments under cast member posts, no promo for upcoming episodes, no clapbacks at shady edits, no shared memes. Her stories vanished one day and didn't return. Her content froze. A feed so active it once updated multiple times a day went dead all at once. And that's not normal silence. That's operational silence. No influencer walks during their peak unless something's forcing them to. Fans noticed instantly. People were asking if her account was shadow banned. Others checked to see if she was locked out or restricted. But everything still worked. She was just absent. That's what made it loud. People don't clock gaps in content unless the person was high volume to begin with. And Jasmine wasn't just high volume, she was chaos in real time. Emojis with double meanings. Subtle live reactions to her own episodes. Posts deleted just in time to keep from leaving a trail, but not deleted fast enough to avoid being saved. Then came the screenshots. One supposed post showing Jasmine ranting about blurred timelines. Another cryptic story, screenshotted in the final seconds before it vanished, claiming she'd been manipulated by more than just editing. Suddenly, fans were scrolling through backups on Reddit and Telegram groups, comparing timestamps and captions with production calendars. Were these real posts? Fans couldn't decide. But the sense that Jasmine had tried to leak her truth before going quiet only deepened the tension. Inside the fandom, 2 theories started battling it out. First, she was legally silenced. After the private drama went public, and especially after $100,000, lawsuit headlines started trending. Jasmine went dark under legal order. This idea gained traction when past TLC stars hinted in podcasts that heavy legal hits come with enforced social freezes. If someone speaks out too openly, and the network locks in enforcement, their team allegedly restricts them from any discussion, even personal opinions, until contracts expire or legal settlements clear. The second theory. This was a prelude to a PR overhaul. A strategic hush to reset the narrative, maybe even a production-planned reintroduction of Jasmine, rebuilt, reframed, ready for a comeback. That's not far-fetched. TLC has quietly reinserted other cast members after long pauses. Silent exiles from the franchise suddenly pop up in spin-offs months later looking calmer, less reactive, and more brand-friendly. Is this blackout Jasmine's version of that break? But here's the trick with TLC. Silence is often a tool, not a mistake. The network is expert at cutting off exposure precisely when the audience is watching too closely. When off-screen drama threatens to overshadow the edits, they turn off the faucet, stall appearances, scrub mentions, and wait. It's damage control, but it's also pressure. Nothing keeps a cast member in check like watching an entire community speculate while you sit in lockdown. Radio silence becomes discipline, not just prevention. Yet fan memory is stronger than networks think. Pictures resurface. Screenshots get reshared. Every vague quote gets repackaged into a TikTok theory or a 7-slide Instagram post. And JBL, just before lawsuit, content is prime material. That's the window of time where fans dig the hardest. The final posts before a public meltdown carry mythic weight. Everyone wants to be the one who caught the last clue. For Jasmine, some of those clues stung. Offbeat captions fans read as desperate. A selfie that seemed too filtered, too forced. A story where her voice cracked while answering a question, followed by 24 hours of silence. The fans don't just interpret what's posted, they assign meaning to how it's posted. If she doesn't type like herself, something's up. Emoji frequency drops, trouble, lack of caps lock outbursts. Something has changed. That's not paranoia anymore. That's pattern tracking. And fans have learned to spot digital distress long before the press does. All of it created a digital aftershock that's still rumbling. Jasmine's platform feels frozen in amber. People scroll it now looking for hidden meanings, trying to decode what wasn't posted, what she might have said if she'd gotten the chance. And some are convinced the network isn't just silencing her, it's keeping the account neutral until they decide her next move. If she's coming back, the rollout will be clean. If she's being cut out, they'll let her fade. But the fandom isn't fading. They keep clipping, sharing, narrating old lives, trying to keep her voice alive in absence. Because until there's a statement, official or leaked, anything Jasmine didn't post becomes a clue and a warning. That being too real on reality TV doesn't just end your show run, it ends your voice. And watching a real person get frozen mid-blow-up feels a lot less like accountability and way more like branding. Fans say the blackout was too perfectly timed. The lawsuit rumors, the production silence, the unexplained cast distance, it all reads like a cleanup. And in entertainment, where silence travels fast but receipts last forever, one moment pulled people back in harder than any episode ever could. Because somewhere in the middle of all this silence, a post disappeared. Not an old one, something recent, subtle, small, but it didn't vanish fast enough. The Jasmine Pineda fallout may seem like one woman going too far and getting burned, but zoom out for just a moment, and you start to see a much bigger picture. A production pipeline that's always hungry, never full. A system that builds stars faster than it can protect them. And a strange, unspoken pattern that fans are finally calling the 90-day curse. This isn't the first time a breakout cast member went from viral fan favorite to network ghost. In fact, it's almost routine now. The louder someone becomes, the faster they vanish. The more volatile they act, the more views they generate, until they cross the invisible line, and then, just like that, nothing. Jasmine didn't fall outside the cycle. She became the latest proof that TLC's system is built to feed on intensity, but rarely to sustain it. Think about it. Her emotional transparency became content. Her most vulnerable moments were clipped, captioned, remixed. And as long as her drama stayed inside the TV box, the engine kept running. But when her chaos spilled outside of filming, when her personality threatened to stretch beyond the production crew's fingertips, the network stepped back. That's not an accident. That's structure. What's baffling to fans now is the uncertainty. Is Jasmine gone permanently, or is this just the silent stretch between installments? TLC has history on both sides. Past cast members have been erased mid-season for less. Others quietly reappear in other spin-offs, completely rebranded. Some even return as special guests, without explanation. So when people ask what's next for Jasmine, the answer's complicated, because TLC doesn't always play by public logic. One scenario, she's done. Too much legal risk, too much online backlash, too unpredictable to micromanage. If that's the case, we've likely seen her last 90-day appearance. No spin-off, no tell-all return, no special feature 6 months from now. Just blackout and silence, unless another network scoops her up and rewrites her arc somewhere else. Another possibility. She reappears under new terms, rebuilt and reintroduced. A PR-primed Jasmine who's learned the edges of the machine she once tried to control. Cast not as an emotional wildcard this time, but as a cautionary example, a reformed player ready to re-enter the storyline under production's command. TLC has done it before, and they know how to sell it. And the most unpredictable option, she walks completely. Not out of fear or banishment, but as an intentional pivot. Find a new corner of the fame economy, one where she's not filtered through network control. Maybe podcasts, maybe independent storytelling, maybe monetizing her version of events online, without giving anyone else premiere access. Would fans follow her there? Based on current traction, probably. But whatever the outcome, Jasmine's story reveals major fractures in TLC's model. The franchise keeps pumping out couples, conflicts, and spin-offs, but fewer of them stick. Viewer fatigue is real. Fans feel tricked. They watch characters rise fast and fall faster. Storylines flatten. Emotional intensity increases, but closure vanishes. There's no resolution, only exits. That kills trust, not just in the network, but in the stories themselves. And when Jasmine fell into silence, a ripple went through the fan community and through content creators who built narratives around her. Channels slowed, posts stalled, views dipped. The fire TLC created turned cold overnight, but no one was allowed to say why. That loss of transparency didn't just hit Jasmine. It hit everyone who depended on knowing whether what they were watching was real, edited, or completely off track. And there's a heavier question, too. Were we part of the burnout? It's easy to say the network pushed too far. That producers isolated her, edited her unfairly, and then discarded her when she made too much noise. But we watched it happen. We clipped it, joked about it, replayed it 12 times to catch her face when Gino said something weird under his breath. We shared memes of her crying, knowing full well she hadn't signed up to be a GIF, but watching it go viral anyway. We laughed when she yelled, got uncomfortable when she broke down, swiped past when she called out a system that may have been choking her behind the scenes. And then we waited for more. Even now, there's still unease. Not because she was perfect, but because she disappeared mid-sentence. No final word, no dramatic exit, nothing but silence. No one knows what happens from here. Not the fans, not the other cast members. Maybe not even Jasmine herself. TLC probably does, but they won't say. This franchise doesn't do post-mortems. It does replacements. Drama isn't healed, it's recycled. And the faster one arc burns out, the quicker another is introduced. That's why this entire fallout isn't just about Jasmine. It's about what happens when real emotion gets packaged into weeknight episodes and sold for engagement. You watch enough caps lock breakdowns and fake resolutions, and eventually you forget someone's real tears funded the scene. Still, there's a strange feeling in the fandom right now. Not anger, not even confusion, something closer to collapse fatigue. Everyone saw this coming, but no one expected it to feel this empty. Not after everything Jasmine gave. Every breakdown, every ugly cry, every long caption begging to be heard between the scream scenes. And now there's just the waiting. For what? Another leak? An apology post? A rival network teaser? Something to close the book, or maybe just to keep it open another week. Give people a reason to pull the thread again. Because if Jasmine taught this audience anything, it's that no reaction comes without a trigger. So when TLC went silent, and fans were left to flip through old episodes pretending not to notice the gap, it didn't kill curiosity, it sharpened it. Already, new drama is rising, new couples getting queued up, new shouty promos airing. The show keeps moving forward. But Jasmine's absence created an empty space that still echoes. And inside that silence, a story was built louder than anything TLC tried to censor. The kind of fallout that can't be undone with a reunion episode or a half-baked testimonial. And if you think Jasmine's break with TLC is wild, wait until you hear what happened between another couple who nearly took the whole production down with them, and the NDA meltdown that had TLC scrambling behind the scenes.